Hogan's Heroes is a World War II sitcom about Allied prisoners of war in a German prison camp who helped the Allied forces by stealing German military secrets. It ran for 6 seasons from 1965 to 1971. Here's a summary of the series. The show was created by Bernard Elst, who also created such classic TV shows as The Love Boat, Fantasy Island, and The Fall Guy. The executive producer was the legendary comedy producer, director, and writer Chuck Barris, best known for The Gong Show. The series was filmed on a soundstage with sets that were designed to look like the interior of a real German prison camp, but the exterior shots of the prison camp were actually filmed at a real German prison camp working with the German government. This was possible because Germany was very eager to show the world that they had moved on from World War II and were now a democracy. The story is set in a fictional German prison camp called Stalag 13, which houses Allied soldiers captured during World War II. The camp is run by a bumbling but sadistic Nazi officer named Klink, assisted by his 2 incompetent guards, Schulze and his friend. In reality, German prison camps were horrible places where hundreds of thousands of people were tortured and murdered. But this show was a comedy, so the German officers were portrayed as bumbling fools, and the prisoners were allowed to outsmart them and get one step ahead. So the Germans are the bad guys and the prisoners are the good guys. The prisoners were led by a group of highly intelligent master spies, led by Colonel Robert E. Hogan. His fellow spies included Major General Thaddeus A. Mason, or Big T, as he was known, who was a large man with an even larger ego, Captain Newkirk, a smooth-talking Englishman who always seemed to have a plan that was just outside the realm of possibility, but somehow it always worked. Sergeant Saunders, a cynical but brave career military man from Oklahoma, whose common sense often saved the day. And finally, there was Corporal James Barr, Jewish American, who was able to speak German fluently and was great at disguises. These 5 men would hatch various schemes and subvert the Germans at every turn, stealing back important supplies and information for the Allies, and sending German military secrets back to Allied headquarters. There were other characters that recurred throughout the series. For example, there was always a steady stream of new prisoners who came into including many famous guest stars. Some of the more notable ones included Lieutenant Colonel John Jacob Astor, the grandson of the rich family who owned the Waldorf Astoria Hotel, Hollywood action movie star, the original Tarzan Johnny White, famous boxer Joe Louis, and even Liberat. Then there were the German officers who tried to replace Klink, including a very young Donald Pleasance as a sadistic Gestapo officer in one episode. As I mentioned before, each episode was self-contained, so there was no overall story arc. Each week, they would hatch a new plan to outwit the Germans. The plans often involved Hogan and his men assuming false identities and sneaking out of the prison camp in disguise. They would then either steal German military secrets or sabotage German weapons and equipment. Often, they would be aided by a beautiful German woman, sometimes a double agent, who would assist them in their mission. The women usually ended up falling in love with one of Hogan's men, especially Big T, who was always eager to boast about how many beautiful women he had seduced. At the end of each episode, after the mission was accomplished, Hogan and his men would return to the prison camp, often bringing back souvenirs for the other prisoners, like food, cigarettes, liquor, or a beautiful woman for the officers to enjoy. Of course, the Germans always ended up looking dumber than dirt. As I said, they were essentially portrayed as comic relief characters, although some people might find the premise of this show offensive, since it trivializes the horrors of the German prison camps during World War II. It's important to remember that this was a comedy and not meant to be taken seriously. The show was actually popular in Germany and helped to further improve relations between the US and Germany. It also enjoyed high ratings in the United States throughout its 6-year run. It's been estimated that over 100 million people watched the series finale. After the series ended in 1971, Bob Crane, who played Hogan, went on to star in another sitcom called The Love Boat, and Werner Klemper, who played the Nazi camp commander, Klink, went on to direct episodes of The Love Boat, as well as other popular series like Sanford and Son, Good Times, and The Jeffersons.